Chapter 25. Miracles Happen. Following the touching moment Angel and Comet shared, they returned to the castle where Princesses Celestia and Luna were waking up. Many of the ponies had gotten through the fight with little injury, and were in the process of checking on other, more wounded ponies. One was a night guard by the name of Shudder, who had a particular limp he swore was nothing to be concerned about. Another was a Pegasus named Moonshield, who had gone to the aid of the Princess Cadence and had a rather large black eye from a magical bolt that impacted against his statue, dropping a big chunk onto his face. Several other ponies wandered around, tending as best they could to those hurt. It didn't take the princesses long to summon doctors from the medical wing of the castle, as well as staff to move those hurt to the wing. Comet and Angel found Valerie, who was weakly breathing but still alive, and rushed to her wing. As the doctors rushed out, both Angel and Comet took a crash course on medicine, setting Valerie's broken limbs and stabilizing her condition under the watch of a nurse treating a badly burned pony next to them. All in all, no pony died, but some were hurt and scarred for life from this fight, mostly those being burned from Philomena's fire wave. Shining came to the infirmary personally to collect both Comet and Angel while seeing his other soldiers. The three of them marched along in silence, past the ruined ballroom, which had become a temporary infirmary as well, up to the princess's chambers. The door was unguarded as they opened it, but before they could enter, a wave of blue magic washed over all three of them. Angel yelped and grabbed onto Comet, but the magic didn't hurt them. "It's a spell to ward off changelings," Shining said tonelessly, and they proceeded into the room. In there sat Princess Celestia, Luna, and Cadence, all around the table. They all turned their gazes to the newcomers, and Cadence squealed at the sight of her husband, whom she greeted with a large hug. The solar and lunar princesses, however, stared at the Pegasus and Bat Pony like they were expecting them to turn into changelings at any second. Luna was the first to speak up.
"Doth thou knowest why thou art here?"
Comet gulped hard, and Angel found an interest in her forehoofs. Celestia sighed and said,
"Sister, not the time for that."
Luna looked at her older sibling, but cleared her throat and tried again.
"Ponies of the guard, dost thou know why thou art here?"
She spoke in a much less intimidating tone. Neither Angel nor Comet responded, and Luna continued.
"Thou were part of the invasion this night, were thou not?"
Comet looked away, and Shining spoke up. "I believe the Bat Pony here, Angel, was the one who rallied the real guards to the rescue." Celestia's eyebrows raised at that, and she mused.
"Well, I never thought a pony loyal to my sister would save me."
"Yes, we can understand—" "Wait! What dost thou mean?" Luna responded.
"I also seem to remember the stallion being posted to guard me at the entrance, were you not?"
Celestia continued, ignoring her sister. Every eye in the room turned to Comet, and he felt a shudder run down his back. "I don't remember, my princess," Comet stated with a quivering voice. "What doth thou mean, thou cannot recall?" the lunar princess demanded.
"Yes, I too am curious,"
the white alicorn agreed, narrowing her magenta eyes at the stallion.
"My captain's shining armor was under the control of another changeling queen, but he could recall almost everything that happened."
"If I may, Auntie," Cadence chimed in, drawing both stares of the princesses.
"I was with a guest who said he saw the changelings attack you. He says one of the stallion's eyes were glowing green when this happened. If it was this stallion, then he would not remember any of it, just like Shining didn't."
"And who was this guest doth thou speak of?" Luna thundered without meaning to. "That would be me," came a new voice, thickly accented. Behind all of them, a powdery blue unicorn with a white wavy mane and red jacket stood proudly as every pony looked at him. Luna gasped, Shining tensed, and Celestia chuckled.
"Oh dear," she mused. "It would seem you had a hoof in this, didn't you, Doctor?"
"I remember thou," shouted Luna. "I saw thee right before the attack." The unicorn rubbed his ear and responded,
Yes, I believe you did. It has been quite a while, Luna, but I am glad to see you too."
"Wait," Shining interrupted. "Who are you?" I am the doctor, the unicorn replied comfortably. Doctor who? Shining demanded. Exactly, he beamed. At that, both Celestia and Luna burst out into laughter, catching Shining off guard.
My dear Captain, Celestia said between laughs. He is a very trusted member of Equestria. Do let him speak.
The white unicorn remained tense, but allowed the doctor to continue. Yes, well, you see this stallion here, he began, waving a hoof at Comet, was a very important part of the attack, but not in the way you think. My companion, Paradox, was temporarily knocked out by the changeling force. I told him since he had not stopped giving me reports on Archon energy readings around the castle, and I found that the changeling was manipulating the stallion against his will.
How can you be sure of that, Doctor?
Celestia asked with concern. I noticed, as I'm sure his griffin friend will confirm. He blinked quite often when he was forced to do something he did not want to. I believe he did so with you, Shining, when he told you of the threat. Shining recoiled for a second, but thought back to that day Comet told him about the fake threat. Yeah. He paused several times and blinked a lot. The doctor beamed happily and stated, There you have it. This fine, upstanding stallion was forced to do things against his will, whether he remembers them or not. I've been helping investigate changeling magic since the first attack, and I now have a theory as to how their mind control magic works. The victim of such magic has his memory wiped to erase any trace of the changelings. The way it works eludes me, but now we have solid proof of my theory. I do believe, however, that the changelings can manipulate how the spell works, allowing the pony affected to remember certain things, like Shining Armor's case. Shining blushed slightly and kept his composure. So, I do not believe either pony here is responsible for aiding the enemy. In fact, since the Bat Pony here marshaled the real guard in time and the stallion drove off the biggest threat, I think they deserve promotions, the doctor stated with a confident smile. The princesses stayed quiet for a while and looked at each other before turning to Shining.
I would actually like to have this stallion as part of my personal guard, Celestia said.
And we would also like to add the Bat Pony to our guard, Luna shouted. Shining bowed his head and said, It will be done, my princesses. On the other side of the room, and what felt like the world, Angel's eyes widened and a large grin split her face. Comet stood there, completely dumbstruck. The Solar Princess, Princess Celestia, wanted him as part of her own personal guard? In fact, the Solar Princess continued, didn't you say they were considering them for a special role not too long ago? Yes, Shining responded. With your permission, I'd like to make them new commanders of your personal guards. Comet literally thought he was going to throw up. Angel almost squealed with delight. Celestia nodded, and Luna grinned. Thou has our permission! Sister, please. Shining returned his gaze to the two ponies near the door. You're dismissed, he said brusquely. The two ponies saluted and left the chambers. Angel exploding with delight and Comet attempting to understand what had just happened. Back in the chambers, Shining rounded the doctor. Okay. Now tell me, who are you? Celestia laughed and said, It's quite a long story. In the days following the attack, Comet and Angel busied themselves, helping wherever they could. As Valerie recovered, Comet and Angel spent time with Shining Armor, going over various things they would need to know as the commanders of the princess's personal guards. Several others were promoted as well, namely Shudder and Moonshield to the Lunar Guard. With the Solar Guard lacking, Comet found a couple fresh guards who had protected several fallen comrades, Hollystock and Wildfire. The days melted into weeks as the guards recovered. The wounded changelings seemed to disappear once they got better, but thanks to the doctor, the rest of the guard was sure they had left the castle. Soon, with about 80% of the guard back to full health, Shining decided it was time to promote Comet and Angel officially. However, a lingering thought in the back of Comet's mind still tortured him. He still had to choose between Angel or Valerie. On the day of the ceremony, where Celestia and Luna would personally welcome them to their service, Comet sat alone in Philomena's tower. The Phoenix had burned itself to ashes in the attack, but had shown up 2 days later, full of vigor and health. The Phoenix had warmed up to Comet considerably, now sitting on his shoulder as he sat in the silence. He had much to think about as he sat there in the stillness. Angel was a beautiful bat pony who had efficiently ruined his life in a good way. He loved her big golden eyes, her bubbly personality, and her obnoxious behavior. The only problem was now he'd hardly see her anymore with her captaining the Lunar Guard. Valerie, on the other hoof, was a wonderful griffin who needed a pony to look after her, something Comet was good at doing. She had a wonderful personality buried beneath her hard exterior, and had only openly shared anything with him. However, as he thought about it, the answer slowly became clear to him. Once he told Philomena about his decision, the Phoenix cawed happily and gave him a gentle peck on the head. Angel shuffled nervously behind the stage, itching from her new dress armor. It was pretty much the same as the other armor she wore at the gala and subsequent attack, but with just more points and shine. As she waited, she heard hoof falls behind her and sighed heavily.
Comet, you know you're almost
She was cut off by a pair of lips meeting hers. Utterly stunned, it took a couple seconds for her mind to register what was happening. Comet's eyes were closed and his muzzle was against hers. Angel thought her heart had stopped as she slowly returned the kiss. Everything around them just seemed to melt away as Angel and Comet stayed together, enjoying the moment and each other. Finally, after what would have normally been deemed an excessive amount of time, Comet and Angel finally broke away, staring into each other's eyes. Angel wasn't sure how to react, but a white light from behind her drew their attention. Angel's flank was shining. Gasping excitedly, Angel leaned over and pulled up the side of her armor, which was a metal plate over a thick wool coat. On her flank appeared the image of a heartbeat line. Angel's initial excitement gave way to confusion when she turned to Comet.
"What does that mean?"
she asked. "You didn't have a cutie mark this whole time?" Comet asked at the same time. Angel Mark chuckled at that.
"Bat ponies usually don't have cutie marks. When Luna was banished, Celestia tried to gain our loyalty by making us more like normal ponies. She lessened our vision sensitivity, made us royal guards, and attempted to give us cutie marks. Instead, the spell didn't work well with our natural magic, so many never got cutie marks. Only those who knew for certain everything about themselves got them. So," she paused, looking back at her flank, "what's it mean?"
Comet laughed softly and wrapped his hooves around the bat pony. "Why don't we find out together?" Angel's gaze turned back to him, and she kissed him again. She loved his strong frame, his gentle touch, and how he always distracted her from whatever she was doing. "Private Comet burst! Private Angel beats!" boomed Shining Armor's voice from somewhere. The couple stopped and looked around worriedly, but realized he had just announced their names from the platform in the other room. "Report for duty!" Getting promoted was the best feeling ever. Getting tackled by a happy bat pony in the crowd was cheering, however, was not. Afterwards, Comet walked along with Angel to his new office, only 3 doors down from Shining's. Comet was still embarrassed and mad she had tackled him, but it sparked a question he wanted to ask her. "Hey," he started lamely, "that day in the alley, why did you tackle me?" Angel paused at that and thought.
"I don't know," she said happily, "but I'm glad I did."
Epilogue. It took Valerie a couple of times to try and open her eyes. The light was unusually harsh on her, causing her retinas to sting. Moaning, the griffin reached up with her claw and rubbed her brows, hoping to alleviate the pain. It worked enough for her to try, and she opened her eyes once more. As the harsh light faded into more recognizable colors, she noticed she was staring at the ceiling of a white room. Valerie blinked a couple of times, trying to recall what had happened. Her mind was foggy, but bits and pieces came back to her. The last vivid memory she had was her fighting a large and very angry changeling, all the while trying to reach Comet, who apparently was being held hostage. She remembered she wasn't doing too well, being lifted into the air, and then her left shoulder stung at the memory. Valerie hissed slightly and tried to move it, but found she was unable to do so. Looking over, she saw not only her shoulder, but her whole left arm was bound securely in layers of white cloth and suspended into the air with a couple of wires. Her mind went blank at the sight, and a sense of horror washed over her. She knew the fight went badly for her, but she didn't think her entire left side was broken. Tentatively, Valerie attempted to move her claws and found the tips of them wiggle out at the end. Valerie breathed a huge sigh of relief and relaxed back against her pillows. At least she could still move. The dead silence of the room made the Griffin uncomfortable after several hours. Valerie had never been so bored before, but she tried to pass the time as best she could. She experimented moving part of her arm and shoulder, finding she had no pain from her elbow down. Upwards towards her shoulder, though, she could barely move. After that, she counted the speckles on the ceiling 3 times, confirming there were 472 in the 3 tiles above her head, meaning that there was about 157 per tile, give or take a few. Once math bored her, she hummed to herself a couple of songs from her home, wishing her mother was here. A steady set of hoofbeats caught her attention as she looked to the door to her right. Standing in the hallway was a violet unicorn, levitating a clipboard.
"Miss Valerie Goldclaw?"
the pony asked. "Uh-huh," Valerie responded. She didn't particularly like the use of her last name, but said nothing. The pony lowered the clipboard and gave a sincere smile.
"How are you feeling today?"
Pretty good, I guess."
"I see," the pony said.
"So, since you are awake, I gather you have some questions you'd like to ask?" Valerie just looked over to her arm as the pony began to speak again.
"Ah, yes, about your arm. Well, when you were brought to us, we did our best to splint it. Your clavicle had split and dislocated your humerus, meaning we first had to reattach your arm to your shoulder before we could fix what was wrong. We put you in a deep sleep and applied some very powerful pain-relieving spells so you wouldn't wake as we maneuvered your arm back into its socket. On a side note, you had 3 ribs with rather large cracks in them as well."
Valerie said nothing as the doctor rattled off item after items of problems she had. It took several more minutes for the doctor to leave, and she sat in silence, wondering what her father would think. Here she was, in Equestria as punishment, and managed to pick a fight with a powerful enemy and got hospitalized with a completely messed up left shoulder. In the Griffin Kingdom, this was a sign of great honor, fighting off such an enemy and only getting hurt. Many of those who fought larger beasts like wyverns and chimeras came back with an even worse state than she did. Plus, those monsters didn't use magic, unlike the changelings she fought. About 4 days later, Valerie sat alone in the bed. Comet had visited her in his new armor and told her of what had happened. He relayed the promotion ceremony and told of his new rank, but saved the part about Angel for last. It did make Valerie sad to hear that he chose Angel over her, but she wasn't bitter about it. She had accepted Comet wouldn't be hers after her confrontation with Angel before the attack, but that didn't mean she didn't shed a few tears after talking to Comet. Now all alone, she waited for the time to slide by. It was a slow process, but it eventually happened. As the Griffin was nodding off, a couple of hoofbeats caught her attention. Looking over, she was rather amused by what she saw. The familiar sight of a bat pony stood in the doorway, looking around as if lost. The pony was taller than Angel and had more masculine appearance, showing off some larger muscles in his front legs and neck. He had a scar running across his right eye, almost like a wound from an encounter with a wild animal. His mane was shorter than Comet's, trimmed close to his fur, but long enough to tell that it was a mane. His more feral-looking eyes scanned the room and came to a dead stop on Valerie. "Oh," he exclaimed in a voice that reminded her of a cello. "I'm sorry. I was looking for the head doctor, and I got, lost." "It's okay," Valerie said automatically, not taking her eyes off of that pony.
What's your name?"
The pony watched her too and responded, "It's Midnight Glow. What's yours?" The two wound up talking for a good while, and Midnight Glow totally forgot what he was looking for. Valerie found him likable, more so than Comet when she first met him. He had apparently come to join the guard after hearing a sibling of his had. He was hoping to find the said pony.
"Well, what's the pony's name? I may know who it is,"
Valerie offered. Midnight Glow looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Her name's Angel Beats. She's my half-sister." The end.